I know. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Elevate Masterclass 4. It's our final masterclass. Had a moment there. Final masterclass. Remembering that the purpose of this whole 6-week course was to deliver the information over 6 weeks rather than you have it all figured out and mastered by 6 weeks. I just want to reiterate that, right? So I do want to open it up to any, at the beginning here, any questions or discussion we have or shares around anything we've learned to this point. And Colleen mentioned something about the codependence level. Anyone else finding like, whoa, there?
Yeah. I just listened to your video about it. I was like, oh, that's going to really be, that's really going to be the one that hits me.
Yes.
Because I can see myself in so many areas of what you had to say. And it could just be me, but I find as women, we tend to have language around that. Like I have found in the past myself saying things, even in emails, that are just checking in on where you're at with that, just, or let me follow up with you on that, because we're so gentle about our approach.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the codependent language that we use, I was like, oh gosh, she got me there.
And the codependent, so you can see that it's like at this level, it's the transition to full ownership. And so there's a tremendous amount of power here. And I don't mean that obviously in a power over way, but in an empowerment way. Is like when I take full ownership, that's what this level is really about. It's about it's like everything outside of here is running the show. And then when I go in here, all of a sudden now this is a whole new level. Right. And so I figured when I was reading this one, which sent me on a bit of a like when I was like, I want to go look up some codependent stuff just on oh boy. So I got to share it, and it was a theme this week. So that's always fun. And just to see the ways that we're doing that in our life. And I think we don't realize how many ways how often we're doing that with the people in our world. Right. So it's a big one, a really big, powerful one. So.
I wonder if, can I just say one more thing? I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was saying how my kids, they just won't do anything I ask them to do. I said, well, how are you asking them? Well, do you think you could get up for school? or she's like, and I grew up with this too. Would you like to do the dishes now? No. Of course not. But it's that whole questioning instead of this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
And so I can associate with that really well.
Yeah. So the energy behind can really then the person is reflecting sort of the energy we're putting out, which is a lot of times like wishy-washy or unconfident or yeah. I love some stuff coming into the chat here. Let me take a little peek here. So many of my decisions are based on what works for the family and others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I decide based on that. So I go outside first. So how does this work for you? And how does this work for you? And then based on what your need is and how it will make you feel, then I will decide it works for me. Right? And we do it backwards, which is interesting, right? Such important awareness. I was going to say one more here. I was just about to say that the feeling of empowerment is substantial when the codependent language is removed. Yeah, it's a big shift. Yeah. Go ahead, Jen SM.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize how easily you can have a codependent relationship with your kids, like your younger kids, maybe even your older kids. I don't have older kids, so I don't know, but just that, like, I heard a saying, I think it was Dr. Phil a long time ago said, you're only as happy as your saddest child. And I think that stuck with me like forever, because I like Dr. Phil, and maybe I don't like Dr. Phil anymore. I don't know. but like I realized that like if my kids are struggling, I take on their energy and I suffer. Like I really, really do. And it's yeah, like it's not like out of an unconditional, like I'll love my kids no matter what they do unconditionally, all of that stuff. But my happiness is definitely gauged quite a bit on their happiness.
Yeah. I think
and it's exhausting.
because you have to be sourcing you constantly have to be sourcing outside. You
Mhm.
constantly have to be watching and paying attention to everything outside. And then when someone's not happy, it's our
Mhm.
job to fix it. And if it's or even change happy even. I mean, what is like, again, if I can't be happy if someone else is suffering. I love Yelena. You just said, I can't be happy. I don't have kids, but if my dog looks sad and I dye her treats for the 10th time, I can't be happy. And I say it could be anyone, it could be our kids, our partner, our parents, our friends, our clients, or whoever, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And then we have to constantly be on alert. And I really believe that being
Yeah.
on alert is what exhausts us. And then our need to fix it.
I
Right?
think, is it possible, because I'm like that with Dave too. Like if something's up with Dave, I know it right away. Like my husband, I know if he's either upset about something or something's bothering him. He'll look totally normal on the outside, but I know, like I just know it's his energy. But I'm wondering if like, is this something we learn if we didn't have a good, healthy upbringing, or like
I
why,
I don't
where does it
necessarily
come
that
from?
I don't necessarily say that it's about good, healthy upbringing, because I think it can be taught through a healthy upbringing too, or loving,
Yeah,
maybe the loving.
maybe just loving your kids too much. I don't
Well, I think
know.
sometimes we are taught that, like, think about when we're parenting, right? So we can easily go like, you're making me unhappy, like your behavior is making me unhappy now. Or when we're a kid, we're like, oh my gosh, I did something wrong, and now mom and dad are upset. And so then mom and dad punish me somehow, and they make me wrong. Like they'll be like, you made me mad. That
Hmm.
language right there teaches us, oh my gosh, I made that person mad, and now they're unhappy, and that's my fault. So it's
Hmm.
my job to make people happy. We just get it. So I don't even know that I mean, to the degree to which we get it, definitely could be dependent on the level that we experienced it. But I think we can get it even in very loving families.
Hmm.
I got it. And I think that I don't. So again, we're often taught, well, make me happy by doing this, or make mommy happy by eating all your food, and so we just learn to listen to everything outside of us.
Hmm.
Fear of disappointing right there. And then people sometimes do make us responsible. So here's where here's how to put it all together. Okay. So yes, empath piece, so husband comes in and I can sense, right? I can
Hmm.
sense something. Sometimes too, if I'm codependent, I'm hypersensitive. So
Hmm.
sometimes there is that piece, because I take it as my responsibility. I'm looking for it, and I'm hypersensitive to it. So we just got to be mindful of that. And so I sense something's wrong. And since I can't be happy unless he's happy, I need him to fix it. So I got to get in there, and I got to get him to talk about it. I got to fix it. I got to make it better, right? Because I can't be happy until he is. That's how it could look. Instead, as an empath, oh, wow, I can feel that he's unhappy. Here's the healthy balance. So codependence is I need to fix it for him. That's codependence. Owning your empath trait and being interdependent means that I see and feel he's unhappy right now, right? I can feel that, and I can hold space for that. And I can have compassion and understanding, and I can be loving in the face of that. And I give him permission to take care of that for himself. Or if I need a boundary around it, I can communicate a boundary around that. And then if he is asking me for my advice, or if he's asking me to help, then I can offer. But it's not my job to fix it. It's his job to fix it.
Hmm.
See the difference?
Hmm.
But sometimes with that empath trait, it's the trigger to flip into codependence, which has me telling them to fix it, or making sure they fix it, or being mad if they don't. I've so been here. This is so much of my experience in the past. So, and I think I'm still doing it.
I think I've actually said to Dave, I've actually, because like I know Dave so well now, like, and it's kind of freaky how well he can shove his feelings down, but he learned that, right? So he will get mad about like the little, like it'll be something so tiny, small, but he will, because he doesn't feel like he has the right, or his feelings aren't valid, or whatever it is. It can be something so small, but he will be so like, oh yeah, everything's fine, and I just know. But what I've gone so far to do is I've actually said to him, and I laugh now because of this codependence awareness. I've actually said, you know that I feel all the feelings. And so you acting like this is not fair because you should be communicating with me so we can fix it. So I'm like,
Fix it for you.
yeah. So
I can be okay, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
I
awesome.
think, well, I think because in my mind, I think it's going to be something, because like the empath part of it, it feels like I'm feeling his feelings. So it feels so intense, like it just feels like, oh, something's really wrong. But then it ends up being, so then I worry that it's something big. It's not. It's something so small that's so fixable, and so like it's actually kind of laughable. Like, don't tell Dave I said that, but but yeah, it's,
That's the thing.
yeah.
An empath, if we're feeling somebody else's feelings, we're usually bringing in, especially for codependent, we're bringing in our perspective on that feeling. So we're going to bring it. So that level of anger based on my childhood meant this. And so do you see how we're bringing our own shit to the equation? So so I feel this over here. And for my childhood, that meant that. And so now I'm like, oh, I can feel this going on. So then now that's how it's working. So instead of it actually just being about Dave and his own thing, we bring our own stuff to the equation. So these are how we create beautiful, healthy boundaries in our relationships and own our stuff and give people or allow people to own theirs, which is that beautiful co-empowerment piece.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? I felt like this was a really good one. I want to share, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to share it right now, but I love I shared it this week already with some people. I'm going to share the difference between empath and codependence. There's like a chart. I'm going to just share it in the group after. And then there's another one that's, what is it? Codependent caretakers. And the traits of codependent caretakers. So when you can start to just recognize some of the traits, you might notice to go, oh, when I'm behaving like this or doing this, there's going to be some beliefs here. So pay attention to the language when you see these patterns in your life. So I'll share both of those charts. I found them online. They're fabulous. In the Elevate group afterwards.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll do that afterwards. And maybe I'll send it an email with the recording as well. So you have those little pieces to add to the equation here, because I feel like it's the juicy one. All right, I want to make sure we give lots of time to our topic today. So I hope you all have your handout sets handy there. I'm just going to pop everyone on mute for background noise purposes. There we go. All right. Okay, so we are in our final step of the process, which is become. So the fifth step of the Elevate process is all about be what you choose through word, feeling, and belief. So on the very basic level, we talk about say your new belief out loud, feel the belief in your body. Does it resonate? How does it feel? If it feels good, can you deepen and amplify the feeling? Imagine, envision yourself being the new belief, and you become what you believe and expect. So this is what we're going to talk about today. So how do you do this? What are the tools and what are the tactics or techniques to actually do this? It sounds all great on paper, but what does it actually look like in real life? So how do you become your new belief? So this is really, really important to remember and keep in mind. So what you give energy and attention to, you bring to life. Okay. So you must bring to life through energy and intention, your new belief. Oh, someone's coming on here. So through intentional practice and real-time action, you energize your new beliefs. And in energizing your new beliefs, you neutralize your old beliefs. So part of this is about, like, again, so what comes to life is what we give energy and attention to. So if we energize and intend and act in alignment with a new belief, then the old beliefs just like they wither, they lose power. So you don't have to do anything with the old belief other than notice when it's active and then choose the new way forward. So again, it's simply giving energy and life to what you want now or what you choose now. So you bring to life new beliefs and experiences by making them come alive in your mind and your body first. Okay, that is the key here, is that we have to actually energize and focus on the new belief and experience in mind and body first. Usually we are doing this the other way around. Okay, we're kind of going, oh, well, I got to wait till I believe it in order to act on it. Or I'm going to wait till there's evidence of it before I actually believe it. Okay. So here's how we do this. So that whenever whatever new belief you have, you want to take it, you can look at it and go, okay, I feel this new belief, but you're like, yeah, but I can see also how I'm completely out of alignment with it, right? Like, or I choose this belief, but I'm like, ooh, it feels like something that I don't actually do yet. That's why we have to build the beliefs. So here's how we build the beliefs, right? And actually become them. So the first tool here, and I really recommend that this is a little process you go through, and it's 5 steps, and it can sound like, oh my gosh, another 5-step process, but it's really just something you can actually do quite quickly when you practice it and get comfortable with it. And this whole process, like actually taking catching an old belief, converting it into a new belief and becoming it, can actually begin to happen quite quickly. Like I can often do it in my head quite fast now. Oh, there's the old belief. What do I want instead? Right. And then I might create an intentional practice about what I'm talking about today. So this doesn't have to be a really huge, lengthy process, although right now it might be, right? As you're learning the new skills. So the first part of this practice is scripting. So this is writing a compelling vision of what you are creating with elevated language. So this is the nice thing about writing it out, is you can write it out and then you can look back and just go, oh, where am I? Just this language check, so this is about beginning to get yourself to think in the new language. So writing it out or scripting sort of your new belief and the new experience you are choosing can be really, really helpful. Right? Because sometimes, again, if I'm thinking in my head, catching, hearing stuff. So scripting it and then having a script that you energize can be really helpful, especially at first. So give it lots of detail and specifics to help you with the next 4 steps. So you write it out to clarify so that you can refer back to it. I know in the past, in some of our retreats, we have done, I did those little cards. I can't remember what they called them, goal cards or whatever. I think that's what I called them at the time. I think it was like many years ago now. But we did cue cards. And on the cue cards, we would kind of just write out the new experience or the new belief with lots of detail around it. So you could almost do it like a cue card and take one belief or whatever, or you could kind of do it like a journal entry and script it, whatever feels good to you. But the idea being here is that you're making sure that it's in the elevated language and is a match for the experience you're wanting to create. So what are you creating? For who? What are the specific details that matter? Why are you creating this? Why? Actually, why matters so much? To make someone else happy. Yeah, that's not to control the outcome or whatever. So, but again, when I write it out, that's where I get to check, why am I doing this? What's my intention behind this? And you want to make sure that your why behind it is in alignment. Okay, it's in alignment with your values. It's in alignment with sort of, what you're choosing. So if you catch that, to make my partner love me, you go, ooh, wow, I gotta reframe this one, So that's why we want to ask that question of why. So why am I choosing this? And the idea being is that you're getting into that language, you're energizing it, you're giving some language to it. It's becoming something. It's now out of you. It's onto paper. It's tangible, right? There's huge value in that. Like for example, I like to use my house renovation as one because I think it's kind of an easy to understand one, but I scripted it. I scripted what I was creating. Like my laundry room is going to be this beautiful space that has, that is functional. And I would describe my laundry room. And then I would go to each room of the house and I would describe how I was going to feel there and what it was going to look like. I didn't always have like the exact specifics. Like I didn't know which couch I was going to have or which color paint on the walls, right? Because I didn't know that yet. But I definitely knew how I wanted to feel in the space and that it was going to be bright. It was going to be open. It was going to feel expansive. So that's kind of language I was using, right? And for who? Well, it's for me and our whole family, right? So I got into the energy of that. And why? And it was all about just like a feeling, how I wanted my space to feel. Oh, comfortable, cozy. I love it. It's a match for me, right? So when I read that, I was like, ooh, like I couldn't wait to experience it, right? So that is kind of what the idea of scripting is you read it and you're like, love it. So that's how it should feel. And then the next piece is to visualize or visualizing. You want to turn the vision into reality in your mind and imagine having and living the experience now. So picture all the details in full color and movement in your mind's eye. See yourself in the image if it's relevant. So I literally did this. I couldn't wait to go to bed at night. I was like, ooh, I'm gonna go to bed and I'm going to go make my house a reality in my head first. And so I would lie there and I would picture it, and I would go to Pinterest to get ideas. So that would help me come up with some of these images or visualize. So again, depending on, what you're doing this around, is there a resource where you can get images, where you can get ideas, where you can get, even if it's for a job or a career, like maybe you can kind of, if you start doing some research around it, you'll get some insights, you'll get some stuff that'll be like, oh, that would be so cool, right? And bring that into your vision, whatever you can do to make it more and more real. And then every time I would see a new phase of the renovation or something, like I got new information, like, oh, now I know the color of my house. So now I can picture the color and I can envision the color, and I can see myself walking through it. So what does your experience look like? Where do you envision this? So if it's something like, maybe obviously it was my house, but for you, it might be in a different location or a different place or a different building, or, maybe it's in a different country or wherever. So just again, where is it that you're envisioning this, and what are you doing? So again, you want to almost put yourself in it. Imagine yourself going through the motions of it, having the experiences. So this is also, let's say we're looking at health and you want to look at how you want to sort of get into, have some new experiences with your physical body. And you want to imagine yourself doing, maybe the idea of like a triathlon or hiking or something just totally inspires you. And you would love to do that. So go picture yourself, if it inspires you, doing the growth grind or finishing the growth grind, and imagining yourself walking up, seeing yourself, what clothes are you wearing? What shoes are you wearing? How are you feeling in your body, right? So it's really about creating the experience first, okay, in mind's eye. This can be really, really helpful for your physical self if you're wanting to create a new version of yourself, right? And seeing yourself as it already from the beginning. And then the next piece is embodying. And this is the piece that I think often gets forgotten, or it doesn't get discussed, or we kind of don't realize the absolute significance of it. In fact, I feel like this is one of them. This is the trigger. This is the thing that flips it. This is the turn on switch. And this is feel the vision, energize it in your body, amplify and really feel what it's like to be in the experience now. So again, we want to get out of the head with this. So the scripting and the visualizing can sometimes be very all about just in the head and thinking about it, which is good, imagining it. Now we want to bring it into the body. What sensations do you feel? Where in your body do you feel it? What emotions do you feel? Can you expand and allow the feeling even more? Make sure it feels good, by the way. This is all about feeling good. And if something comes up like fear or shame, then you got to go address that. You got to, because you don't want to bring that into this experience, because then that's the experience that you're going to have going forward. So whatever you're energizing, make sure it's something that, like as I describe it, I was like, ooh, so I could feel my body getting excited and like my heart filling up and my stomach getting excited about the idea of this creation and living in a space that felt so in alignment to me. And I would get butterflies and excited and passionate. And, it was something that I just couldn't wait to experience. Right? Or I was excited couldn't wait, excited to experience. So really embodying it. Any questions on those three so far? Or comments? Okay. And then the next step is actioning. So we got to take actions that are a match for the new belief. Okay, or the new experience or the new version of what you're creating. And this is kind of the act as if phase. So if you were to take actions that are a match for this experience, what could I choose that's for my highest good? Okay, I'm going to actually teach go into this a little bit deeper later on here. But this is where, again, when we are becoming a new belief and we haven't yet become it, we're in the process of becoming, the new actions will likely feel a little bit uncomfortable because you're creating something new. It's a new experience, right? So there is a little bit about this, you're probably going to be expanding your comfort zone. So that's where we kind of say there's this act as if piece. People kind of say fake it till you make it. And this is how this works. I don't believe you can just take all these actions that are in alignment with like what you perceive wealth to be, but then not do anything before it. Like, I think it's so important that we envision, embody, and become it. And so the act is if, like, I saw this sometimes, I'll just say, I would see this in like a lot of the programs I was in. and I probably even did it myself, is it would be like, okay, take the action that's in alignment with like improving your financial situation. And it was like, go buy, so go buy this or go buy this thing. And you're like, cool, I'm gonna go buy that thing. But then I don't do necessarily any of the other stuff before it. So we can kind of create these like fake it till you make it. There's some limits around that. So paired with the stuff that I'm talking about, the act as if, which I like it much better, is about, okay, what action is in alignment with this feeling, right? I will teach you how to do this. So this is the actioning piece. We do need to action it. If we just stay envisioning and imagining, you're just a dreamer, right? And that's cool. But then if you want to actually own the experience and have the experience, there will be aligned actions to take. Okay. And then the final step is affirming. This is affirm and feel into your new beliefs out loud and often. So create reminders and space throughout the day to stay tuned into the up-leveled experience. Remind yourself of the new truths out loud and feel into them whenever you are called. So again, I think sometimes people get really caught at the affirmation stage. So I have my new belief. So we go create the new belief, and then I just affirm it. And we just say it out loud, say it out loud, say it out loud. Okay, yeah, it's not enough. Okay, so that's why we sometimes think affirmations don't work. Well, it's because affirmations alone aren't enough to create the new experience, but they are definitely an important part of becoming. Okay, so we're going to dive into all the what gets in the way bit now. So any questions about those sort of 5 simple techniques and actions? No, all good. All right. So what gets in the way of becoming? So number 1, only doing the practice intellectually. So affirmations without embodiment in action are just words that you say. So I can sometimes say, I'm going to script it out, or I'm going to journal it. I'm journaling it, I'm scripting it out, and I'm affirming it. Sometimes we just do that. And where it's all intellectual, it's all in our head. Okay. And because of that, you're you're not embodying it, maybe not taking action in alignment. So sometimes we can get some movement with it. So Jen, okay, this is totally where I'm on some things right now. Okay, let's be honest, most things. But this is why you maybe, again, you'll get some motion, but then only some. I get like, you're going to get some movement by doing any of these things. But if you really want to become it and have the new experience and live the new experience, you got to do all the pieces. Okay. So again, we got to, and some of us are so comfy up here. I am. That's one of my go-tos too. So I like being here. It's like my happy place. So we got to pull ourselves down into our body and really energize it there as well. Being unintentional. So not creating space to energize the new vision. So we talked about that last week as well. This really is an intentional help. I lost sound. This really is an intentional practice.
I'll message her.
Okay, thank you, Jen. This really is a intentional practice. Like, again, if you're going to create a new experience that's outside of your current zone, it's not going to happen by happen chance. Does that make sense? Happen chance? Is that a word? Yeah. It happens chance. I think I have to say it's not going to happen by chance. Not going to happen by chance, or by accident. Right. So it's really about recognizing that I'll have to create space to energize this. Giving all your attention to how it's not working, what you don't want, where the gap is, how it's not coming in fast enough, how you don't have what it takes, how it's too hard. What else do we say? Right. So often what happens when we got to remember there's a process of becoming. Right. So remember, happens in body and mind first. Do you have a question, Colleen?
I was just going to say that so many people feel that they'll be happy when, instead of enjoying, being happy now, and then that joy comes as a result of where you are, instead of I'll be happy when this happens. Be happy anyways, and then it will happen, I guess.
Happen even faster. Yes, so true. So again, sometimes we can be in the habit of paying attention to all the ways something's not working, or be in the habit of paying attention to what we don't want. Okay. And so what we remember, come back to that very simple belief or reality of the way the universal law works is what we give attention to grows. So if I keep giving attention to all the ways that it's not working or how it's not happening fast enough, you're just going to get more of that. Okay. So we got to really be mindful of every time we're paying attention to what we don't want and what we are, how it's hard or it's not happening fast enough. It's like you're actually making it that way. And this is not a blame thing, but this, you're actually creating that experience by choosing to focus on that. Okay. Now this doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Obviously you're human, right? And I'll talk about how to handle that later. So the next one is trying to figure out the how in your head instead of listening to and following your inner guidance system. So when we are sort of setting out this new experience, one of the first things ego does is go, yeah, but how? How do you get there? And then usually the answer is, I don't know. Right? Because ego doesn't know. Because you haven't been there before, likely. Isn't that exciting though? We don't have to know how. Right? So that is usually one of those things that will shut you down as well. So now I'm focused on the how, and the I don't know how, I don't know how, I don't know. So that is the more of what we get. And again, I'm going to address each of these a little bit later as far as the solution. And then number 5, needing to know the exact steps and the outcome before you believe it. So sometimes we have this, well, I'll believe it when I see it is kind of that thing, or I'll believe it when I'm guaranteed that it's okay for me to believe it. So we have this kind of reverse way of experiencing it, which just keeps us completely stuck in the same loop because what we believe comes to be true, right? So you can just all of a sudden how that very belief is keeping you stuck in the same situation. So, and then the final one, seeing the opposing situations. So the opposing situations being like the evidence of your old beliefs as evidence of reality rather than evidence of what you created based on old beliefs. So sometimes when all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm going to change this new belief and I'm going to have this new experience. And then all of a sudden within a relatively short period of time, oh my gosh, here's this experience of this old belief, but I'm changing that. Oh, see, it's just reality. I can't have what I choose. Right. And so and we kind of believe that, but recognize your current experience, wherever you're at right now, is a reflection of the beliefs up until this point. And there's a little bit of lag time. So like if I energized and whatever I energized and gave attention to like a month ago or a week ago, that's what I'm experiencing now. Right. So sometimes we kind of get into this like, oh man, it's like, okay, this is just the evidence. And this is because last week or last month, I really energized this belief system. Right. And so it takes, just imagine it, right? It takes a bit. So as I activate the new one, it's going to take some time to energize and turn into reality. It's not necessarily instant. Sometimes it can be pretty quick, depending on where you're at, depending on your energy and your focus and your current level of consciousness. But generally there's a bit of a lag time. And sometimes that lag time can really be as you're building it and becoming it slowly, like you're often replacing the new beliefs sort of slowly. Like you still have some of the lingering old stuff. You didn't just ditch it and it went away. You know, sometimes those old beliefs created complete relationships and work situations and stuff. So the evidence of that belief might be quite entangled in your life. And so the untangling of it is what you're experiencing. Right. And so recognize, yes, okay, I can just see how this belief is sort of moving its way out rather than it kind of being like, see, this is the way things are.
This might be a really weird comparison, but I was in Weight Watchers for a while ago, and I can remember like every week you go and you weigh yourself as part of their process. And I would be so good working out, eating right, water, hydration, everything, go in and have gained a pound and then leave there feeling low, do crap eating and everything, go back and I've lost like 3 pounds. And what I recognized was there was like this 1 week delay in the results that I had been working hard for. So then now you go back, I've had my crap week and it, doesn't look so great or where the trend wasn't there. And I know there's so many variables there. It's not really the same, but it was really eye-opening for me that the effort you put in is not instantaneous, right? Which is similar to what you're talking about.
Exactly it. So your current weight is the experience from your previous choices, right? So be careful about measuring your current, having your immediate thing as a measure of your new beliefs. Love it. Great example. Really tangible. Any other questions there? Comments about that? So what are your main barriers? What are you seeing here? Like, what are the ones that you go, oh yeah, that's so me? Feel free to share. Anyone want to share? So write it down and then we can share. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Sometimes I think there's, from some of the other work that we've done, there's this like joy ceiling, or this ceiling on what the vision can be or what's actually possible. Sometimes I feel like I struggle a bit with that. So it's like, when I start thinking about what it is that I would really love, like when you talk about your home renovation, right? Then maybe there's a situation like what I would truly love in my career or in my whatever. And it's amazing how much ego jumps in right at that point to tell you, you can't have that. Who do you think you are? You know, like this mental chatter. So I sort of feel like sometimes I get hung up in the visualizing and getting in the energy of, because there's that ceiling there that I know I need to break or crack the beliefs that are making me think there's a ceiling. And then the other piece too is when I can do it and everything looks really great, I get stalled at taking the aligned action. Like I get stalled at, okay, now I need to get my big girl boots on and actually go and do something different than what I've been doing, right? And so those are, I would say, sort of the two parts where.
But I'd even just be curious about, Jen, and we're going to do this, but what part of you is making the decision about big girl boots and which action to take? So ego may have a very like, you need to jump ship now and run in the other direction, whereas intuition might be like, go talk to so-and-so. You know what I mean? Like, so sometimes ego then brings in, when ego has a really strong grip, it can sometimes be having you take a way bigger action that feels way too big for where you're at right now. So intuition is always going to give you bite-sized pieces. So just remember that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to just, Yelena has a chat here, and then Jen next. So I feel that sometimes the people around me, or the ones I share my thoughts with, are the ones that distract me from my new beliefs that I set for myself. And then I go back to my old patterns. So so right now I currently allow the people around me, right? So that would be kind of this is where the empowerment me, because, oh, wow, I currently allow the people around me to distract me, right? Yes. And easy, right? That is one of the bigger challenges around sometimes doing this work or thinking this way, is that a lot of times our people or our networks aren't necessarily in alignment with those. Jay Shetty's book that we're reading for book club this month, he talks about this. I mean, I've read it tons in books, but it always talks about how who we surround ourselves can have a huge influence. So it really is really challenging ourselves in those moments, or coming to your connection network to realign. Yes. Jen Wilson.
Okay, so barriers for me: health, money, COVID, public health orders or provincial health orders. But the big one for me right now is the pressure from outside sources to hold on to my career that I want to dump. And it's not my family, it's actually the union that's saying, don't give it up, don't give it up, don't give it up. Because once you do, you can't get back in.
What's calling? What
I know, and I'm like, yay, yeah. And so I'm like, yeah, I think I'm okay with that. And I've actually said that to the union rep. And really? Are you sure? So huge second guesser. And it was, what if she actually said, well, what if you aren't able to make money?
What if I am?
What if I am? I know. I was like, damn, I should never speak to you again.
Total reflection of the fears, right? That's the ego's fear.
Totally. Yeah, and I've been completely content with letting it go because it does not serve me in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, that's a huge.
So that's really about that codependence piece too, that I allow what's outside of me to determine what's right for me, which is what sort of, Yelena, you were sort of alluding to too, is that I'm allowing what's outside of me to influence where I'm at, which is so common. This is like one of our biggest barriers for life. Yeah. Super normal. Super normal. Again, especially if we are to have tendencies toward codependency. We're very fixated outside and using that as our measure or our guide. Okay, but we don't have to stay there. And that's what we get to recognize here, is just that we have the power to shift that. Anyone else want to share what their main barriers are? Michelle? Yeah.
So definitely ego. And ego wants certainty. So it wants to know, like, especially around the how, like, how is this going to happen? When is it going to happen? And then it will say, you know, if you did know, then that, like, I would feel better, because that comment where you had said, and then I can't remember if it was around fun, but just the fun around the not knowing and the anticipation. My ego's like, no, that's not fun. Like, it wants to know.
Yeah, it's like, but then I think what you're great here is recognizing, like, oh, wait a second, there's a part of me that doesn't think it's fun, and maybe there's another part of me that does.
That does, yeah.
Yeah. So ego gets loud, right? So this is, again, really, if we look at any many of these things, it's really ego's in the lead here. Yeah, I get in my own way, which is usually ego's getting in our own way. Yep. Awesome. Anyone else have the one to share? All right. So how do you overcome what gets in the way? So each like one is the match for the one above. Okay. So number 1, 2 is the answer for 2 above. So when it comes to only doing things intellectually, it's do all 5 steps of this practice to energize and become. Turn your intellectual focus into a full immersion experience. Isn't that fun? I love that. And allow yourself to go anywhere your imagination takes you. Grow it and expand it. Feel the beauty and glory of allowing your imagination to fulfill you. So often we're looking outside for things to fulfill us. Fulfillment comes by allowing the neat thing about this process is you can just, for part of you when ego chirps in and jumps in and is like, yeah, but is that reality? There's no place for reality here. There's no place. We don't need to know steps here. We don't need to know the how here. This whole immersion experience is all about, it's just simply, and you can quiet ego, you know what? We're just having fun here. We're just playing here. We're just, don't worry. We're not like jumping ship yet. But it's about just allowing it and experiencing it. And this is where fulfillment comes from, because your imagination and the experiences you create will be different than mine. But the experiences you create and what you imagine is your soul's way of saying, this is what would feel fulfilling. Okay. And so you get to fulfill yourself by honoring what feels so amazing to you. But usually we're looking at the job is going to fulfill me, or the person is going to fulfill me, or this thing over here is going to fulfill me. Nope, it won't. Only you can fulfill you. And you are fulfilled by listening to yourself, your soul, and honoring it. That's fulfillment. Okay. So allow this part of you to just expand and grow. And remember, like, you can create whatever you choose in your imagination. You can also fine tune it. And you don't have to go from A to 100. 1 to 100. You can go 1, 2, 4, 5. You know what I mean? Like, you can just take little steps in the direction of that. And every time you take a little step in the direction of that, you're becoming more fulfilled. Okay. So you have to be like, ego just thinks you got to jump ship, and you don't. Maybe there'll be a point where you do, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen at square one or at the first step. Questions about that? So there's no place for ego or like the how. There's no how or no when in the full immersion experience. You'll notice when I asked the questions in the previous section, I didn't ask you how or when in any of them. It was just to like get it alive and liven it up and give it all the fun details. And then the next step that can get away is the being unintentional. So create space at least once, ideally twice, to energize the vision fully. You can do that in 5 or 10 minutes. Who is it? What's his name? There's a guy, I remember, he does Notes from the Universe. Do any of you get those? Notes from the Universe? And it's Mike Dooley. He's all about turning thoughts into things. So this is so like, he just like, that's all he does. How do you turn thoughts into things? His work. But I remember him saying at one point when we were listening to it, he goes like, don't spend too much time visioning, because then you're not taking time actioning. So you're living in dreaming mode then, and then you're not doing the things that are actually going to turn the thoughts into reality. So I love visioning. I could spend hours doing it. It's just like, oh, because it's just this full immersion experience, right? But and it's beneficial for me actually to get out of it and go, you know, how do I take this from here? But again, you will have to create time to do this, or create space, or give energy to this. So the next one is giving all your attention to how it's not working, what you don't want, where the gap is. So set the intention. So you can set the intention to, or you can ask your guides to help you, or do both, which I would do both, to call your attention every time you fall into the habit of energizing the old beliefs and habit of thought that are misaligned with your new vision. And then you can use these reminders to cancel, erase, delete, and choose anew. So again, when we get into this, again, you will go there. If that's your current habit, that's probably where you're going to go. But we got to be able to catch ourselves in that. So I would go, I choose to be aware when I'm unconscious beliefs, you know, my unconsciousness, you know, bring my unconsciousness to light. Or guides, please show me a sign. Or, well, this is my thing. I was just sharing with, I can't remember which call I was sharing it on, but I was having a shower. I was telling you guys, Della for sure was on the call, but I was having a shower earlier in the week, and I'm always working through some little things and fun stuff to process. And I was in the shower and I found myself all of a sudden, I kind of caught a new, like a growth piece, like, oh, cool. Yeah, that's totally what it is. And then I started collecting all the evidence of the old belief. And I just started, and I was engaging with it, but I just made the shift. And then I went back to engaging with the old stuff. And then all of a sudden in my bathroom, which makes zero sense, all of a sudden I had two bottles, hairspray bottle, this other bottle, that knocked over my what is it? My cleanser bottle. So it like smashed on the thing, but there was nothing, no cat, no animal. And I just laughed and I went, and it snapped me out of it. And I got right away when it came in, it's like, stop paying attention, stop energizing that. You don't need to energize that anymore. Like, you know better now. So stop it. I said most of my growth comes in the shower. Totally. Right. So I kind of got this cool new piece. And then all of a sudden I started energizing the like, oh, why did I get there? And what was in the way? And it was like, just like, no, you're done. Like, go. So you can ask for guidance around that. So, or have little reminders. Again, when we're learning something, sometimes maybe there's something on your computer or something in your car or somewhere. What are you thinking about right now? Or what are you paying attention to? You know, just to kind of get you, to remind you to stay in alignment with the new patterns. And then again, don't beat yourself up, because that serves nothing. Right. Cancel, erase, delete. You know, or right, up until now, and now I choose. Okay. And then you can just, in those kind of moments, it might just be affirming the new belief, practicing the affirming and saying it out loud to remind yourself, right? To create that new pathway in the brain. So saying it out loud when you catch yourself in the moment is a great way to just, right, we're rewiring, baby step by baby step. Question about those so far? No. Okay. Page, where am I? 3. So number 4, this is trying to figure out how in your head, and then listening to, so this is when we're trying to get the how, and we're caught up in that when ego is like, yeah, but how? So the solution to that is you ask your inner guidance or your universal support team after each full immersion experience. This is the best time to ask it. You can do it any time, but I love it to do it when it's like you want to be in that state of connection so that you're tuned into the energy of that's a match for what you're creating. So thank you for helping me hear, see, know, and feel my next best step to manifest this experience with grace and ease. Pick your words. You don't have to say it like that, but just what is my next best step? I always like grace and ease now. I'm not into the hard stuff. So that was what you can do. So you have the full immersion experience, you ask that question, and then here's what you're going to pay attention to. And this is sometimes what we do is we think that it's got to come in right then and there. It might not. Okay. Especially the ego comes in really fast, and you might notice that. and shuts it down. So I'm going to go over some examples of ways that you can notice and what you're paying attention to. Remembering that this is the really key step here, is really paying attention. Like, you will be shown what your next step is. But when ego thinks it knows what the next step is, it kind of jumps in there. So you just have to really pay attention to the energy behind something, and it won't be perfect, but here's the things you can notice. So in that moment, when you, like, maybe you ask, you might notice that there's thoughts, ideas, memories, words, sensations, or feelings that come to you. Again, this is your intuition. And again, you can ask, so when it comes in, it's important to go, what does this mean to me? Or what is it calling my attention to? And if you don't get it, guides, please be clear and obvious, right? And then all of a sudden it might mean draw a card, or you get and you might not hear draw a card, but you might get the sense to do it, or the idea to do it. Or, so it is important to go, what does this mean to me? And sometimes what happens is we think that the next best step, let's go career change. Okay. And we go, what is the next best step? And we think ego's like, well, it's probably something to do with the career. It's like, that I have to go take some action that has me leaving the career, or I have to take some action that has me. So that's sometimes what ego does. I think it's but really it might be go talk to hubby, or it might be, you got to go deal with this relationship thing over here, or it might be go drink some water, because it might be calling your attention to, right, maybe my health isn't the best right now, and I got to deal with that first. So that's why we have to stay out of this whole notion that just because I'm asking about my career doesn't mean I'm going to get career guidance. Okay. And that's what ego has a problem with. No, but I need to know my next best step as it relates to my career. Go drink some water, go stretch, go for a walk. Right. And okay. And you do it. Michelle, you have a question?
Well, my ego is saying, how do I know that that's what for my highest of good or for my best versus what I thought it was?
Yeah. So because you're in alignment, when you're coming from that place of alignment, you got to trust it. So there's this real piece of, you got to build that trust. So the practice of is you got to go, okay, you know what? I'm going to go take the choice. This thing is not saying likely going to go quit your job, right? So it's not going to be something really dramatic. There may be a point when you've built the trust that ends up being the answer. But chances are in that moment, it's going to be something quite simple, and you got to build it. You got to go and take the action and having faith and trust that it's exactly the right step.
Okay. Because that's like what I'm thinking is that I only know that upon reflection and looking back.
Yep.
Which I guess is probably part of building the trust.
Yes, it is. So you'll have to go take the step in faith.
Okay.
This is the faith trust piece. Oh, I got this it came in, I'm going to take the action. And then I get to go reflect back and go, okay, yeah, that totally was what I was meant to, is exactly what I needed. I was feeling exhausted and making a decision from a place of exhaustion, not the best thing. I went for a walk. Oh my gosh, I feel better. And I bumped into so-and-so and they had an idea about something. So again, you can't always see the path forward, right? Or how it's going to happen. But when you try and manipulate it and control it, you completely block it. Comes from the energy of fear. So here's some other things you can watch for. So again, it might come in right away and it might not. That's okay. You're in good energy. So you may, if you feel inspired to take some kind of action, so reach out to someone, to research something, to go for a walk or go for a drive or follow a certain route or a certain path, like that's insight. That's intuition talking to you. It might not feel like that, but that's how it speaks to you. So you might just go like, oh, you think of someone. Maybe I'm supposed to reach out to them, right? Or all of a sudden, like, okay, so funny when it was like research codependence. I was like, okay. I went over here and I was like, oh my gosh. And then it showed some really good stuff up. So now I have, anyways, it was super relevant for this week in lots of ways. So that's how often, even in my job, works for me. Like I'll just be sitting there and I'll get a hit to research something or to Google something, and I won't know why. And then I will have a call with a client in like the next session or the next day. And I was like, oh my God, I was preparing for that. So that's how it can work. Same with you. You may be called to research something which gave you new information. So now you can handle something better in your actual job or relationship or whatever. So that's how you want to pay attention. So let go of the notion that the research is the big, huge final outcome that is going to create the end game thing. Okay. Remember, it's all these tiny baby steps. Maybe you feel called to pull cards, pick up a book and open it to a random page, to listen to a certain song, or to just turn on the radio, or to turn on Spotify, or maybe you just all of a sudden feel like, I just feel like writing something. This happened to me the other day, yesterday. I created a new course yesterday. I had no idea that I had a course to come out of me. I knew kind of, like, I know that that's where I'm going, but I sat down, I'm like, okay, what's this? And it was like, write. And I was like, what? I was like, what am I writing? And it was just like, write. And it was like course. And it was like topic. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so I just sat there and it just went right out of me so fast. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know that was coming in today. How fun is that? But if I'd gotten in my head about what I thought I should be doing yesterday, which was prepping for something different, I wouldn't have got that. Right. So this is how it can be kind of fun. And this is why, again, ego wouldn't have never created that piece. So animals. So again, pay attention. So if you see an animal, remember when this isn't like, well, it could be your attention going to your dog and kind of what is my dog reflecting me right now, but it could also be, you know, are animals calling your attention? You know, when a certain animals cross your path, you know, what is the symbolism? What do they mean to me? You know, numbers, insects, plants, you know, all of a sudden I'm really drawn to plants. What do these represent? What's the quality of these? What is it calling my attention to? And that is the thing that you want to really ask is, okay, cool. I saw this frog that crossed my path. Such beautiful service. I love it. A frog crossed my path. And the idea being is like, okay, well, what does that symbolize it to me? What is it calling my attention to? I've been asking a question, and then when I go research what a frog is, it's the actual answer. So the answer didn't come in through like, here's your next 5 steps. It came in through frog symbolism. And frog symbolism is, it just told me like my next step, or what's in the way of my next step. Right? So it's really just learning to show, your world is always showing you. And so you got to be tuned in and paying attention. Pay attention to email messages that come in, social media posts that grab your attention, conversations you have with people. Spirit works through people hugely. Articles you happen upon or feel called to research. So again, notice where your attention goes. So you might, again, and when it comes to career, I'm making a career decision and all of a sudden I'm drawn to this article about parenting. Well, that has nothing to do with my career. It totally does. Because maybe you have to heal something about your parenting thing or some codependency stuff before you can actually take this next step in your career. Right? So I always like to just, I assume. So instead of going like, is this for me? Is this something that's, instead of questioning it, I assume it. I assume that I'm being fully supported and that there's something here for me. And then sometimes I can't figure out why, but I just assume it. Okay, cool. And then sometimes I can't see it in the moment. But then a month later, I'm like, oh my gosh, that article I read like a month ago, it made sense. Now it matters, you know, so things build on each other over time. And then signs, symbols, and messages that call your attention. So ask, what does this mean to me, or what is it calling my attention to? So whatever's coming in for you. And again, there could be things beyond this. This is just sort of an examples of things you can get started. Or sometimes we go, I really want more money. I really want more money. Or I want to improve my financial flow. And all of a sudden there's a webinar series that shows up, and it's like, you know, or there's a workshop coming up about something. So it's not that they're going to hand you more money. It's like, we need you to be able to allow it first. So I know you want more money, but you're blocking it. So first, what we have to do is we have to allow you to release the block, and then we can show you how easy it is to come to you. But first we got to deal with the block. Or love. So it's, I really want a partner. I really want a loving connection or a partner with someone. And so then an article comes in, or a conversation with someone comes in, or a course comes in, right? And again, because I'm blocking love. So we've got to deal with the block first, and then the Lord or first allow us to come in, right? And that could look with it could be love with your current partner. I want to have a closer connection with my current partner. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden current partner starts behaving the way you like. It actually is going to call your attention to your beliefs that are blocking the love, right? That's how it looks. But ego kind of has this thing like, well, it's got to look this way. It's got to happen this way. And he has to do this and they have to do that. And then everything will be okay, right? So just check yourself when you're getting a little detached to the how piece. And then here's the next really important step: follow. Take whatever next step you're being called to take, and trust that your higher self and your universal support team are revealing to you the path of least resistance. And I did not say no resistance. I said least resistance. Okay. So when you follow that, you could take your own path, but it may be much longer, much more arduous, and full of a lot more resistance. Your universal guides, they want you to be easy for you. That doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. They want it to be the easiest for you. You may have some stuff to heal and clear as part of this path, but they're going to offer it to you in the most gentle way if you listen and if you follow. Does that make sense? So there is this little faith and trust piece. I like to, I started with small stuff, right? I mean, there's stuff that so I built up the confidence and I built up the trust so that it was easier to trust it with the bigger stuff. Questions? Comments? Yes.
Okay, so you said notice email messages that come in, social media posts that grab your attention, conversations, and of course, ego says to me, I shouldn't have liked that, because now I'm just getting absolutely inundated with emails about entrepreneurship and get your MBA, all this stuff. It just doesn't stop.
So
like,
what's wrong with that? So again, sometimes you can go, you don't have to answer everything, all of that, and you don't, but what is the message you're getting?
It's pretty constant.
So ego's like, what does ego say about it?
Ego
Yeah.
says that, damn, the algorithm has really got your attention here, and they're just going to keep kind of sell you stuff.
Sure. Or what is the collection of messages that you're getting? Right? For sure. That's totally what has happened. There is nothing, and that's what's happening for sure. However, it is inviting you. It's inviting you to decide. I always just see it as that, okay, I'm seeing that there's obviously my attention went to something. I was drawn to, my attention was drawn to something. And now as a result, I'm getting all this information. And so also this is a way, right? This is a way. And so it is calling your attention for you to get clear of it. This is me, intuition, or algorithms. Totally. Sit with it. Just go. So again, it can look, it totally is algorithm. And also, you have an underlying thought you should be in a master's program or being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that for myself when I react to a push of notifications. Yeah.
Just thinking for me sometimes that I'm triggered by those notifications because I'm trying to convince myself not to do those things. So it ends up becoming like this trigger. Or if my ego is like, you should be doing this, that, or the other, then if those notifications come in, then I start to get triggered if I'm trying to, I don't say resist against it, but I'm trying to choose differently, right? I'm trying to shift. And I find those kinds of push notifications trigger me, and they make me think like, shut up, I'm trying not to choose that. Why do you keep showing up in my face, right? Like that sort of a thing. So I just wondered if maybe it was similar for you.
Oh, that sounds very right. Oh my gosh, that's because
calling your attention to your belief that needs healing around it, which is maybe that I think I have to have an MBA in order to be an entrepreneur, which FYI, you totally don't. You probably need an MBA if you're going to go be in corporate somehow, but to be an entrepreneur, no, you totally don't. Most don't. Actually, most, honestly, when I was in a lot of the business programs, a lot of people in business programs don't even have a college degree.
Yeah.
So just saying.
That's because I have a very what do I want to say, like a heavy reaction to it. Like, MBA, no, I don't want to do any more courses.
Yeah. So it's really recognizing that, like, so again, it's just calling your attention to the belief that that's what I have to do in order to have. And then you have to get, so then maybe there's some research, or there's a belief that you get to go reevaluate. And so that you can clear that one. So it's calling attention. It is for a reason, right? It is for a reason, calling your attention to something. And so then you get to choose what you believe. And if you are struggling with it, then how can you resolve that?
Okay.
Great points. Yes. Except when Peloton ads come up. Yelena, how about you?
I have a question for you, Andrea. you said start with the small things. So can you give an example and maybe a short version of how you do it with the small things?
Great question. Great question. So sometimes we're often going, which career decision should I make? You know, it's so huge, right? That it's like, and so trying to trust when it feels so like so much feels at stake. It can be, yes, can feel tricky, right? So yeah, I'm expecting a great parking spot is what Colleen Taylor was saying. Or what would be the, like, as far as how I'm gonna spend my time today as for fun. You know, what do I feel like called to do? And then if it was fun and you enjoyed it, like, yeah, it was totally on track. Or sometimes there's like a simple decision, what to eat for dinner or which friend to hang out with, or well, I guess not really right now, but you know, how I'm going to spend my time, things that there's not a lot attached to. Okay. And then which item to buy, right? Sometimes we use price as the reason, in the sole reason for buying something. And then we end up going like, oh, why did I get that? But intuition was telling you totally to buy the thing that was more expensive, but it was just like, oh, like it was calling your name. So what's the difference? And so go buy the thing that was more expensive and notice, oh yeah, I'm so glad I made that choice. Or the other way around, it could be flipped for you. You could be somebody you tendency to pay more than you need to. And so you choose the lower price item. Yeah, so just stuff that you're not attached to so much. Do you get that?
Yeah, totally makes sense. I mean, I do this for the small things, but then, like you said, when there's something that's more at stake, I get into that freeze and I'm like, okay, think hard, like manifest hard. And then I'm like, okay, well, it's not going my way now because I'm really focusing so hard on it. And it feels like I'm trying to feel the feelings of the positive outcome, and everything, all the negative stuff comes in. This is not every time, but sometimes I find myself like, why is this so hard with this versus like, I'm going to go to the store and pick between two brands of cereal, you know, and I instinctively know which one to go for.
Yeah.
So that's easy. Or manifesting the parking spot. You're like, in my head, I'm like, I'm so relaxed. I'm like, yeah, there's going to be a parking spot in the back. And sure enough, I drive in the back and it's like, there's a
Always is.
park.
Yeah. So what for you, I'm going to ask you,
Or whatever else.
oh, sorry, it's cut out there.
So
You need something in the middle.
go ahead.
Sorry, you cut out there. I'm sorry if I cut off you. Cut you. You need something in the middle. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put that in your court. So there's this big, huge career decision, and then there's parking spots. So what might be a middle one? Maybe it's even a relationship in your life that you're working with. And that's something, and maybe it's not, there's nothing too, like you're kind of maybe a little bit open with it. It's like, you know, I'm going to just play with this current relationship or with this person. So I'm going to kind of get into the experience about the relationship I would choose to have with this person. Right. Again, not one that's super heavy and convoluted, but maybe one that's a little bit more removed. So you're not too attached. What would the experience I'd love to have with this? So go envision, that same process. How do I want to feel in this relationship? What is my next step to create that or to ignite that? And then notice it and then take the action.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So maybe it's just someone where you have a little bit of like you're a bit off or something and you're not too attached and you'd love to improve it or you'd love not to. You'd maybe like to release it. I don't know. And so maybe you could just play with that one. Does that feel like an easier one possibly to deal with?
Yep. And for the big ones, I've noticed lately that things are coming along. It's just they're not with grace and ease.
Yeah.
So I am learning a lot of lessons on the way. I'm like, why did I not specify with grace and ease? Because I really don't want to be learning all these lessons all over again.
Yeah. So now you know. Right?
Yes.
Have that, right? But sometimes when we have this, sometimes we have this story. I did not do a lot of mine with grace and ease. So many of mine were like heavy and hard and like incredibly challenging. So, because I didn't really realize that I could ask. There also sometimes too, I was kind of like, I just want it done. And I had this kind of attitude so if I wanted it done, it had to be hard. That was my belief, right? Mm-hmm. So just check it. This could happen with ease, right? Yeah. Okay, so again, you can keep growing your practice. So yes, there's parking spots and there's like groceries and that kind of stuff. And then you can do something that's maybe a little bit more involved in it. And then you can grow it and build it. Right. So I try to bring the practice into like a lot of things in my life. right? And just sort of use it as almost like a quick kind of practice that I do to kind of just tune in and check around decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions about that? There's a great workbook. Yes, Colleen. Let's see here. Oh, you're muted there.
I can just unmute.
Okay.
I was going to say, I started doing vision boards years and years and years ago, but one of the best workbooks that I used to buy every year and work through is called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And it's not just the book, but the actual workbook to think about what you would want if you could have anything without concern for time or money. And I thought it was a great way to go through some of these steps you're talking about too.
Awesome. Great share. Della, do you have a question?
I had two things. One was when Michelle, you said about certainty, you know, it's been a few years doing this that, you know, I can back up to the road most resistant. I can remember the certainty that was definitely a requirement in anything I did. And just recently having let go of the how is what moved me forward. So that took that trust and faith, but they were big life decisions, just selling the house. And of course, just my own work, what I was going to do. And I really didn't know, but of course it came with, how is that going to look? How is that going to happen? But my point of that was that when I have my clients and I'm like, we've sold the house or we're selling the house, and and even friends, they're like, well, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? How's that, and all the chatter from outside. And then I would just usually respond with, I don't actually have to know that right now. So it was kind of like waiting for their response to look and go, oh, what? And they're like, oh, okay. And I don't know the answer to that right now, but then I just chose not to have to know that, which is not usually my go-to. It's usually I have to know. So that was that. The other part is I want to invite myself back to your shower moment, Andrea, where I was like, hang on a minute, time out. Okay, I don't know if I can articulate this thought or question, if it is, because I think I've already answered my question based on the fact that it's the feeling of, okay, so I was kind of doing a quick check. I'm in the shower with you and going, okay, so you caught that new belief, and then you were collecting all the evidence of the old belief, and then you're like, shh, no, go away, that's it, that you're done. It almost had that moment thinking to myself, how different is that than, just the regular crap in life that comes up that you don't want to deal with, and you're going numb and all that kind of stuff. Yes. That you're going, no, I don't want to deal with it. So you're shoving it away, and it's the ego that's talking, you're shoving it away. And it was like, how different is that than the crap versus the old belief?
Get it. Like the denial, avoidance, like how's that different from denial and avoidance, right?
Yeah, like when you're trying to discard the old belief because it's no longer serving you, and you've got the old and new belief, there's a little transition there.
Yeah.
So that's where I was at in the shower with you.
Thanks for being there with me. No, it is really the difference between because I know I'd done the work on it. I literally had spent the morning doing my connection practice and kind of tuning in, and I got from my book, I got something. I was like, oh, I had all these kind of cool awarenesses. So then I'm like, oh, I'll go complete it in the shower, because shower will usually where it comes in, and I'll almost get like here we are. Like now I can kind of see the big picture, and I got there. And then, so because I'd already done the work and I was aware, it was kind of a conscious process. And then all of a sudden I kind of just flipped into kind of like just calling up all the evidence of the old belief and kind of replaying it again. Like how I got to there, like kind of it was like, oh yes, yeah, this happened and that happened, and that's why this happened. And I was like just analyzing it. I was like just in analyzing mode, and it wasn't productive. I didn't need to do that anymore. There is a point where it is just not productive. But if we haven't done any of it, and we're stuck in something, that it is productive for us to go process something. But I'd already done it. And there is a point where it is really just like, we're done with that now. We get to choose moving forward now. We know why. We know where you're coming from. Got this, check. And now we have to keep choosing this one instead. Right. And that's kind of what it was about.
Okay, yeah, I kind of sort of assumed that, but then I was sort of thinking just, you know, you're kind of still not that you are, but anyone, whatever, is still hanging on to that old belief, but not really, because you really have kind of made, what's the word, you've made good with it, that it's like,
At peace with it.
yes, that's the word. Thank you.
Right. But ego can sometimes say, yeah, but, and it's like, no, we're good. We're good. We got this. Right.
Good. Thanks.
And just noticing how my energy felt when I started paying attention to that stuff or going into that, it's like, how did I feel? I was like, oh, right. See, that person screwed you and that person screwed you. And it was really just like, no, we just need to like I knew better. So it's all good. Yeah. Great question. Thank you. Okay. So then your practice is just to repeat sort of step 4 there each day. And then number 5, needing to know the exact steps and outcome before you believe it. Right? Sometimes we're like, well, I need the evidence first before I believe it, which I think, Michelle, is a little bit what you're talking about there as well too, right? So this is, remember this, you become what you believe and you get what you expect. Okay, so not the other way around. So it's your ego that needs certainty. So when ego's, it's recognizing that when you're in that mode, it's like, this is just ego needing certainty right now. And if I keep believing this and if I keep expecting it, I'm just going to get it. So I'm going to get this. And so it's really kind of going, you know what, I can, so do whatever it takes to get comfortable with the uncertainty of not knowing. So that is really doing the steps from Masterclass 2, where we do it about how do we get ego out of the lead and why self in the lead. So there may be going and talking to a young part of you that's scared of uncertainty. Right. And there's a belief about uncertainty. So that practice in Masterclass 2 that has you kind of going back and listening to the younger part of you, that's because it's the younger part of you that's probably scared of uncertainty. Right. And your soul's not. Your core self, your wise self, we're good. They're all over it because they know that that's the way forward. So just recognize that there's a part of you that's active in that moment. And if you go attend to that part of you and then invite wise self in the lead again, that's how you move through that. Yes, Michelle.
I find too, because definitely like I talk about the certainty and all that, and I know that because I have the more awareness, it's not as strong. It doesn't have the strong hold on me like it did, years ago. Saying that though, I think that part of it is still, or where I am right now, is that my like that little girl isn't fully trusting yet because I hadn't listened to her for so long and allow her to speak. So I think I'm kind of in that process. So yeah, definitely the certainty is not as strong. It's still there. But yeah, it's a trusting now that I'm.
You know what I think is fun, Michelle? So your guides were really encouraging you in this, if I think of this whole process that we're going through with you, they were really kept calling attention to your career, kept calling attention to give your focus to that, give your focus to that. And now you're in a new career position that's full of uncertainty on some level because it's a new position. So you're learning to get comfortable with it there. You're growing your comfort with it there. So see that. Oh, this is how I'm actually building some of that. Not that you're totally comfortable with it yet, because there's a parts of it naturally, like anything, there's a process of becoming, but we don't have to grow it always in the area that we're focused on. So I can kind of begin to grow it over here where maybe it's easier. And then as I build it, it gets easier over in this area.
Oh, that's so true, right? Because it was always relationships that was the focus.
Yeah. So we need
now the focus.
Right? So it's the lack of relationship is always on the focus is on the lack of relationship.
Yeah.
Right. So let's get you into focus over here, because it can be sometimes tricky to build that belief directly in that one area where there's so much lack of belief and uncertainty. So let's go over here where you had a bit more, you had more confidence for sure. You had a lot more over there. Mm-hmm. And then you change the job, which is so cool. And now, which is so cool because you're getting comfortable with all the uncertainty that one's bringing on.
Yeah.
We can build ourselves there, which will translate over here, which is good.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so that's just your reminder. Maybe you have that posted somewhere, right? So when you're questioning yourself or you're doubting yourself or you have this high need for certainty, it's like, gosh, what do I want to get? If I get what I expect, what am I going to get? And if you don't like it, right, let's you got to do the practices to pull yourself back into the lead. Okay. And that is the practice above. And then number 6, seeing the opposing situations as evidence rather than of reality, rather than just of your sort of past choices. So when you find yourself giving energy and attention to the evidence of your old beliefs, which is like current situations that are a result of them, use this as an opportunity to energize and practice your new beliefs. So this is where you can act as if. There's no better place to act as if, is in the moment where you're going to go take your old belief. You're going to go like follow the old belief, go follow the pattern of the old belief, go follow the thing that you usually do. The best place to act as if is right there, because that is healing in real time. Okay, so you can do this, which is, okay, if I felt, so depending on what you're struggling with in the moment, if I felt safe, secure, and confident right now, what would I choose? If I was fearless right now, what would I choose? If I loved and respected myself right now, how would I see or handle this? If I trusted myself and my universal support team, what would I do? If I believed my needs were equally as important as others, what would I choose? If I felt empowered to make the decisions entirely on my own, what would I decide? If I believed my value was unchanging, how would I respond? So these are just some, so depending on what you were dealing with in the moment, and you were kind of like, okay, I recognize here's my old pattern. Normally, because I feel my value feels threatened here. So my response is to attack or to blame. And I don't want to do that anymore because I know my value is unchanging. So how would I respond if I actually believed my value was unchanging? I'd be like, thank you, or I hear you, or what would the response be? And then even though you're going to be wanting to do the old thing, you totally will want to, because you're in the process of becoming, then you act in alignment with the new one, and then see how that works. See how that shifting, see how that feels, right? And likely, because it's been guided, there'll be a positive outcome. I'm not saying everything will be fixed as a result of that, but likely there'll be a positive outcome from it, right? Will help you build belief, strengthen your confidence, so that the next time it happens, you do it again. Okay, that one thing won't necessarily fix the whole thing, but it's the step. It's the next piece in the equation. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so obviously you have to ask the questions that are alignment with whatever you're dealing with in the moment. There's a chat coming here. If I was making the decision on my own, what would I need? Yeah. What would I choose? Love it. Need is coming from a place of, a little bit from a place of lack. So I'm really loving the word choose. I'm going to kind of replace that. Yelena, did you have a question? Oh, I thought someone put up their hand. Yes, Lisa.
Okay, so I have stuff in my hair.
Yeah, okay.
But I trust you all. Stella did this to me. Anyways, no, so that's kind of, you just gave me the aha, and that's where my stumbling block totally is. So I do that, making the decision all on my own, but I'm very much in a partnership relationship, and that's what I want. Like, so there's a stumbling block for me in that, well, I can say it, but if he opposes it,
you can't have it.
Well, yeah, I guess. Well, yeah, it goes back to your whole renovation thing too, like thinking, visualizing yourself, feeling yourself, and like the two are directly related. Like the only thing left driving me nuts is to which the level of finances my husband thinks we put into the house. And I do get recreation is fun, and it, like all that kind of stuff. And it does give us so much. And I think that's where I get torn, is because I get so much like from our property when we go away. It's like just peace and solitude, but like we live here. So I feel like our property is always taking, and the toys that go with the property and all that are, but because I get so much from being there too, I'm in a divide of kind of like, oh yeah, you're kind of right. Yeah, that's true. And really, is it that bad here? Like the house is nice, like and or I go to the flip side. We're going there with it like this, and we're enjoying, like, I just am stuck with my own happiness, I feel like, in the decision. And I guess I just have to watch signs.
Remember, we're not saying my needs are more important than someone else's. That's another thing too, where we're saying our needs are equally as important. And equal needs means that we come to the table with the belief that our needs are equally important, means we both are allowed to be equally heard. We create space for that. And then from that place of equal expression, we can find compromise and come together to decide.
Right.
Right? It is not, we're not moving from my needs are less important to more important. We're saying equal. And that is sometimes that's a very, very important distinction. And then there will be that part of how am I deciding to, so you, again, your value system will determine what is more important. So that's maybe what we need to clarify is what are my values? So depending on, like, again, if what is, what's that?
That's why he always wins, because that is my value system, is that monetary, that my house is more of like, I'm okay here unless I picture somebody coming here and going, oh my gosh, like, you know what I mean? Like, I guess more so like outside of my house, because yeah, anyway.
So one of the things with decision making, just a little tiny little piece to add in here, is that sometimes we're having a hard time making the decision because we're unclear about our values. We're unclear about why we're making, what we're using to decide our choice. So this might just be clarifying, what are my values, understanding his, and then recognizing what is the middle ground, or how do we honor them both? That would be my question. So I always just, there's a belief that we all can, there's win-win-win here. That's how I believe we can create a win-win-win.
My values are so family oriented that, like, when we're working and doing the codependency and like all that stuff, I get stuck in like, whether am I codependent or is this just like my core values? Like, this is,
there's probably some work to do there.
yeah.
I mean, instant answer to that, start to go, guides, universe, help me figure out what this is.
Right.
And then all of a sudden an article comes in about codependence. You know what I mean? So babe, that's what it looks like. You know, it doesn't come in with the answer all in one, like you have the answer necessarily right then and there. It can, but it also can come in so that there's a bit of figuring out you have to do.
Yeah.
Or if someone recommends you a book, you open the book and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, there's this whole section in the book that is exactly what I'm feeling. And so then it gives you some more information so that you can get clear.
Okay.
Awesome. Great point. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So to become your new belief and to create new experiences, you must act in alignment with the new belief instead of the old ones. So the action is super, super important. It requires intention. It requires practice. Notice this isn't a practice, patience, and imperfection. They're necessary aspects of this process because it's a process of becoming. It's not an instant become. It's a process of becoming. And that process can take varying degrees depending on your intention and your practice and where you're starting from. Okay, so if we can be patient with that process and just be more intentional about it and see that every little step is more of me becoming, I'm becoming more and more. Okay, so release the need for everything to be figured out and mastered all at once. You can keep clarifying, experiencing, fine-tuning, and elevating your experience. Find and focus on the joy in each elevated experience, right? Sometimes we're just waiting for the end result. So then we're missing all the joy in between with every aha and every growth moment and every like, cool, like I'm here now. And we're was like yesterday or a few days I was here. Like I'm aware now and yesterday I wasn't. Right? I had no idea what codependence was yesterday, and now I do. Progress. So now I have some tool or some information or insight that's going to help me. That's elevated. So every new level of self-awareness is an elevation. So let's take a little bit of time here to give this a try here. So this will be your practice to put into to place going forward. How are we with our time here? We're a little bit, we'll do a little quick blurb here. I'll explain it, and I'm happy to stay on here and just, if anyone wants to stay on and work through this with me a little bit, we can maybe take about 10 minutes to do that. If anyone has to go after I explain this, then I totally respect that. So what new belief would you like to amplify? So if you think about what you've maybe been practicing and maybe it's any of the new beliefs that you articulated since our last session, just pick one. Just pick one of them and have it and just write it down. And then in having this belief, so if you were to believe this, what new experiences will be possible? But just pick one area of your life. Like you may have a belief it's going to literally ripple across your entire experience, but just pick one area for now. And I think sometimes that was we do too, is we maybe focus on too much, but just pick one area. And maybe it's a hot one, or maybe it's the easiest one. I don't know. What will be possible? So if you had this belief, thanks, Michelle. Great to see you. What would be possible? So then this little piece of, let's just take a few minutes here. And again, we'll just get the juices flowing. I just want you to get the juices flowing. You can always add to it. But what are you, when you think about now scripting this, if you think about this area of your life and you think about having this new belief and what might be possible, right? What are you creating? What is it that you'd love to, that you want to create or they're choosing to create? You know, for who, and what are the specific details that matter? Why are you creating this? So just sit there, write down and see if you can get a few sentences about what it is that you're creating and the experience that you're choosing going forward. Does everyone have a bit of a blurb there? You can always add to it, but enough detail to kind of take it to the next step. Okay, so now just finish up your last point there, if you have to. And I want you just to sit back and just get comfortable in your chair there for a moment. Sometimes I put my hand on my heart. This is kind of one of those things because it's about connecting, but do whatever works for you. And so I want you to just start to picture this in your head now. So we're going to take this, whatever you wrote, whatever experience you're calling your attention to, and I just want you to give it like create a movie around it. So you're just going to picture it. You're going to imagine. It's just your imagination. You're just going to use your imagination, and you're just going to sort of see it come alive in your mind. Maybe what does your experience look like? You know, what are the colors, or where do you envision it? What are you doing? Just close your eyes, and anytime ego wants to chirp, just shh. This is just for fun. Breathe. Keep bringing in more details. It's like your inner designer. And now I want you to bring in feeling. So when you think about this experience and how you might feel, or maybe you can already feel it, start to kind of, what is it? Is it joy? Is it excitement? Is it passion? Is it love? So bring in the feelings, feeling in your body. So you almost imagine this image. And as you're imagining it now, pay attention to how your body feels. What do you feel? Where are the sensations? What emotions are there? And it's about expanding it, allowing it even more. So it's about this combination of this beautiful visual and then also this feeling. And just keep allowing it and keep expanding it. When ego comes in, shh. Breathe into it. It's safe to allow it even more. Notice all the sensations. Do you get butterflies? So your chest open, or maybe it even tightens. Who knows? Just notice. Do you get any adrenaline? And now just invite in a question. If I were to take an action that was a match for this experience, what could I choose? What could I choose that's for my highest good? And just notice without effort. Remember, it could be a memory, it could be a thought, it could be a feeling in your body. And then just ask the question, like, what does this mean? Or what is it calling my attention to? Or maybe you're getting a sort of a sense of an action to take. Go take it. And if you can, take that action. If not, just write it down. And then once that feels complete for you, you can just open your eyes and you can just make notes. So sometimes just putting pen to paper, even if nothing came in, just put a pen to paper and start writing. So I'm going to invite you each, if you would like, encourage you maybe if there was an action that you feel like you're being called to take, or if you notice something, to post it in the Facebook group and just kind of I'll create a post on there and you can put it on there, right? And just to kind of go, oh, I was called to do this next step or whatever. So it just kind of makes it, gives it some more energy and kind of gets the motion, maybe even seeing how we're all called differently to do different things. There's absolutely no right or wrong here. because whatever you're working on is what's the highest best for you. So the next final step here is just is the affirm. What reminders and space will you create to keep yourself tuned in throughout the day? So just again, if there's something, I don't know, sometimes we need those little reminders. If you're kind of get unconscious and unintentional, then what is it that you can do to remind yourself to tune in and just check yourself? Because really it's about, am I operating in the old belief system right now? I'm in the habit of paying attention to all the ways that it's not working. Or am I in sort of aligned, and I'm kind of aligned with the vision and the energy of the new vision, right? And it's just your checkpoints. And this doesn't have to be like you have to 100% be somewhere in order to create. It's like you've got to just start creating a tipping point, right? Where you're more in the energy of the new than you are in the old. That's all. More in the energy here. Okay. Any questions? So that practice gets easier and easier the more you do it. And so if again, something came in, you don't understand it, you can always ask your guides for more clarity, and then just repeat the process of noticing and just see what else comes in. So have fun with that one. And our final, we're on, or not final, sorry, elevation number 10 is our next level of awareness for the language for this, for where we're at. And this is the one that I recorded, and Zoom took over 24 hours to post. So I just went, you know what, maybe I meant to do this one in person. And then I just bumped next Monday and Wednesday will be our final two. I just trusted it. Okay, me staring at the computer and refreshing every minute didn't seem to work. So, okay, so elevation number 10 is unspecific or almost there. So when we're operating at this level, there's usually some momentum, like you're seeing stuff, things are happening, but you might not really see that like the outcome is really coming to fruition. There's probably lots of movement, lots of momentum, but it's still not quite coming in the way that you're hoping, not fully realized. So this is where and this is often the place that I really coach people to get to first. You know, when we do our workshops and stuff, I'm like, just get into the energy of what you're choosing so that at least we can get into the energy of higher self. So we want to get into the higher vibe. And then once we're in the higher vibe, now we can start to specify, right? So this is a fabulous level to be at. Just saying. So this is, I choose love, I choose empowerment, I choose support, happiness, joy, completion, abundance. So this is great. And then add more data, please. So yes, this is awesome. We've got you in there in some ways. Now give me some specifics to work with. So with who, how, in what way, how often, you know, where, how long, and you want to personally connect to the state with specificity. So we're really bringing in some personal connection to this one now, which really aligns with even our becoming a practice also. So instead of I just choose love, it could just, I choose love and acceptance of my body. It could be, I choose empowerment. I choose empowerment with my job. I choose support. I choose support in creating financial abundance. And what this will do is with all of these, it will create more momentum in that direction. And then once you get more momentum in that direction, you can get, then it's going to invite in more clarity after that point. But this gets you moving quite beautifully. I choose happiness, or I choose happiness in my relationship with my mom. Or I choose joy. I choose joy as my measure of alignment in my work. I choose completion. I can choose completion of my house renovation, or I choose completion of my divorce. I choose abundance, or I choose completion of my job. That could be another one too, my current job. I choose abundance, or I choose abundance of what? So it could be, I choose abundance of time and energy. So those are the examples at this level. So again, it's even, this level is even great. So even being at this level, you're going to have some cool experiences coming in, some big shifts. And even Della, this is kind of the example that you did with your house. It was okay, choose abundance. You didn't have any of the specifics yet. And I said, let go of the specifics, just get into the energy of abundance. And then as motion started happening, you got clear on what it is that you wanted to specify. And then you could add the specificity. And then as you added the specificity, or as you got clear, you added it, and then those situations came in. But you don't have to know it all at the beginning. You do just want to know what you choose, the energy of what you're choosing, and getting into that vibe. And again, you can always, this is the ego, you got to know it all in advance. Nope, you don't. just gotta get into the energy of the direction that you're choosing, and then the universe will guide and support you all along the way here. And we can fine tune, folks. We can fine tune, we can shift, we can go, yeah, no, I don't like that, or I thought that I wanted that. It's come in, cool. I'm going to tweak and shift again. Okay, that's our power within our power to create our experience. So this is the get personal and connected place, which now I really think about it, it aligns really well. This topic aligns really well with our actual practice today. So I see why the universe stalled Zoom for 24 hours, which has never happened to me, and felt like this is a perfect elevation for this topic today. It's really sort of really getting us into that energy. All right, everyone, thank you so much. I should have made this a 2-hour course. I'm realizing now one of the things about running something for the first time. So I think you can appreciate your patience for me going over here. If there's any questions, I mean, we are complete. If there's any questions that anyone wants to say, I am happy to answer those as well. Okay.
That was great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you all so much for being here.
Okay.
All right, take care, everyone.